Your meeting June 11th. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Director Robertson,
Here.
Director Ratterman,
Here.
Director Thomas, Director Garamendi,
Here.
President Davidson.
I'm here as well. Okay, item 2, public comment. This time, members of the public may address the board in any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment today?
Good afternoon, President Davidson. I'd like to make some public comment. In recognition that we have 2 new board members here at CCWD, it occurred to me over the weekend that we haven't properly introduced our field staff supervisors and with any operations department. So the operations department has 50 employees here at CCWD, spanning 9 different disciplines. And we're going to dive into the work that these guys do. They're responsible for in greater detail in the operations report, which some of you see every month. But I thought it'd be a great opportunity to introduce some of the folks that we're going to make now here today. So when I call your name, please stand. You have Cameron Edens. He's the supervisor for the mechanical department. We have Zach Scott and David Hudson for the copper code distribution crew. We have Amos Reeder. He's the supervisor for the collections department. Ron Rose, senior supervisor for treatment of its past. We have Ryan Sullivan. He is the supervisor for the utility crews, so the service lines that just get replaced day after day. John Applegate is senior supervisor for treatment in Copperopolis, so the water and wastewater and reclaimed. We have John Brown down here. John is the senior supervisor for water treatment for the Genuine water system. And, Pat Burkhart. Pat Burkhart is our construction and maintenance manager. And we have Christian. Christian is in charge of Wallace and Southwood. And then we have Jesse Hampton. Jesse Hampton is our plant operations manager. Tiffany Burke is in charge of the operations, all things operations. So she's basically covers training, certification, and POs for our system. So she's our administrative tech. We have Gabe D'Amicis is the senior supervisor for treatment of Longview Pass. We have Bill Heinley is the senior supervisor for distribution of Longview Pass. Roger Tingle is in charge of the construction crew. And then Chris Scardino is in charge of the Genuine distribution. So the 30, 40 plus service line repairs that I bring to every month, that's Chris. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for
Well,
bringing
thank you
everybody.
guys for all you do. Much appreciated.
Okay, no, you guys got to stay and go through this budget. Yeah, you got important stuff to do.
It's the budget.
Watch what you ask them, Jeff, they will.
Get paid the same.
I know. Take over you.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Anybody online? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial items will be acted upon by the board at one time without any discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion. 3A, approval of minutes of May 28th and May 30th. 3B, review of boards, directors, monthly timesheets for April. 3C, ratified claim summary 639. 3D, approval of the 2025 CCWD sanitary sewer management plan updates. And 3E, approval of authorized agent and authorizing self-certification of financial capability letter for Copper Cove wastewater treatment improvements district under word of.
I'd like to move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll open up a public hearing, discussion action regarding the adoption of fiscal year 2025-26 operating capital improvement plan budget.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. The item before you today is the adoption of the fiscal year 2025-26 operating CIP budgets, as well as the adoption of the 2025-26 personnel allocation. There are going to be two separate resolutions. The budget itself has been brought before the Finance Committee, brought in front of the board, and there has been just one change from the last time we were in front of you back on May 28th. We added $30,000 to the professional services budget and general management to help with management studies and efforts in that degree. It was missed in the original budget that we put in. Other than that, there are no changes to the budget as is from what you saw in the in the last board meeting. I can go through it, or if you would like, you can recommend adoption. I'm not sure how we want to do this because I don't see many people here that were not at previous meetings. I'm not sure.
No, we have gone through it, and just as you've indicated, I think everyone here is familiar with it. I'll go make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 25-26 operating capital improvement budget.
Do we have to close the public hearing and then vote, or how does it go?
Public comment and then closing.
Close the hearing and then vote.
We have two motions as this on this one item. Can we do both motions at the same time? They also move that we adopt the resolution, the second resolution and personnel allocation for fiscal year 25-26.
Okay, is there a second to that as well?
Second.
Okay, so we have both resolutions approved and seconded. Is there any public comment? Anybody online? Okay. So do I have to close the public hearing and vote, or do we vote and then close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing first.
Okay, well, I will hereby, there is no public comment I'm aware of, so I'll close the public hearing. Please pull the board.
Director Robertson,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director Garamendi,
Aye.
President Davidson.
Yes. Okay, we will open up another public hearing. Is that correct? Discussion action regarding annual standby assessment fees. Jeff, you want to give us a short description of this, and we can take these all at once, or do we have to do one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay.
Probably I'll add a little bit of flavor to this because of our two new board members. What we have is, we have what we call standby fees that are charged to property owners within certain areas. The Indian Rock Vineyards subdivision, West Point Improvement District 3, Ebbets Pass Improvement District 5, those are waters. The first one I mentioned, Indian Rock, is a sewer standby fee. Jenny Lynn Improvement District, water standby fee. Copper Cove Improvement District 7, which includes the Copperopolis town site, water. Saddle Creek subdivision within the Copper Cove Improvement District 7, and that's water. And Copper Cove Water Content Improvement District 8S, which is sewer. Now, under the Uniform Standby Charge Procedures, it's a government code 54984. A local government agency that provides water or wastewater services may adopt standby fees in connection with the provisions of those services. A standby charge is often assessed to unimproved properties to help ensure adequate water or wastewater service will be available to that parcel when needed, or to a developed property to help finance water and wastewater system improvements for other costs and expenses to provide water or wastewater services. This is something we do annually. It's built into the budget. It's about $130,000 a year of revenue. It's based on the fee. If it's water related, it's got state water fund, sewer related, and sewer fund. We've been doing this for many years. If these fees are set prior to Prop 13. So to be able to make adjustments to this, we have to go back through that whole voter process. The district has not changed these fees since I've been here originally in 2008. And they've been around for quite some time. It takes a board vote on each one individually. And staff recommendation to the board is to adopt the attached resolutions to set standby fees for the improvement district, the districts that I just mentioned. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, so we'll need a motion in a second, on each one. So
Why
can
don't
we
we
get that
vote on
started?
them individually?
Yeah,
Yes, and do we have to close the public comment and then vote on it?
okay. I'll, at this time, ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on this matter? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion on the Indian Rock Vineyard subdivision. So moved.
Second.
With motion second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Now I'll entertain the West Point Improvement District. So moved.
Second.
With motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Evans Pass Improvement District 5. So moved. Motion
Second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Jenny Lind Improvement District, Copper Cove Improvement District. So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Saddle Creek subdivision. So moved.
Second.
And Copper Cove.
Yeah. So they do it together?
Yeah.
Copper Cove, Rock Antenna. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That's taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was a world's record. The shortest time ever for both budget and standby fee.
I like it.
After 5 or 6 years, we get pretty good at it.
Yes, you do. Thank you so much.
All right. So, discussion, is this 6, are we on 16 now? Yeah. Right? Okay, yeah, discussion action regarding, resolution of appreciation for Cindy Secada, Director of District 2. Cindy's not here. I don't know if she got on or not, but, we just wanted to recognize her. I'll just read this and we'll get it off to her, but whereas Cindy Secada had faithfully served on the Calaveras County Water District Board since 2018, representing the citizens of Calaveras County and the residents of District 2 with dedication and integrity. Whereas Cindy has been a valuable member of the Finance Committee, contributing to the enhanced fiscal oversight and playing a key role in strengthening the district's financial management, ensuring its fiscal integrity, and whereas Cindy consistently made decisions guided by what she believed in, what she believed to be the best interest of her constituents and the broader community, always demonstrating respect, thoughtfulness, and a commitment to constructive resolution, even when the waters got a little choppy. And therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District hereby commends Cindy Secada for outstanding service, dedication, and significant time and energy she devoted to her role as a board member. And be it further resolved, this resolution serves a lasting record of her perseverance, leadership, and contributions to the district. So with that, we certainly want to thank Cindy for her efforts here. I personally think she did a terrific job, and she was an absolute great advocate for ratepayers, and she'll be missed. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I certainly appreciate the time spent with Cindy. She did hold our feet to the fire quite a few times. As a new board member, she did not just go along with the flow, which you know, congratulations to her. She was very willing to stand up to the board, to our general manager, made things a little bit tougher for him for a little while. But I all in all, I think she was a fantastic board member, and I wish her well in her future endeavor. She will be missed.
I'd also like to say that during the time that I served on the board with Cindy, we became pretty good friends. I had interacted with her when she was manager over at the Murphy Sanitary District. But she really kind of threw herself into this job, and it was always a pleasure to sit next to her. And we had some good times and some times that we didn't agree, but always left her as friends, and I'm gonna miss her. Do we need a motion on this resolution?
I would imagine we do.
I would like to move the resolution, please.
Okay, just a second.
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Any public comment?
Cindy's not on.
Please pull the board.
Director Robertson,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director Garamendi.
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes. All righty then, we'll move on to 6B, discussion action regarding election of vice president and committee assignments. This is something I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah, but so this is kind of a mid-year adjustment, obviously, based on the two vacancies that we had. So Director Secada was the vice president. And so that position is now vacant, as the three longstanding board members know, that's usually, not always, but it's usually done just on a rotation. And it was District 2's turn in that rotation. But there have been times where it has, for various reasons, we've changed the order of that. So there's no rule that it has to, go that way. So it's at the discretion of the board to appoint a vice president.
All right, is there any recommendation for the office of vice president?
Well, unless Director Garamendi has some objection, I would like to continue that rotation. You know how to run a meeting. Right? Okay, I recommend Jack Garamendi for vice president.
Okay, is there a second?
Second to that.
All right, is there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the nomination period. All those in favor of Director Garamendi as vice president, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and then as far as the
Flyover.
Oh.
Did you time that up?
They're pretty good on time.
Yeah.
Boys, great.
A tribute.
Hopefully our yard's not on fire.
It's not the Blue Angels, but it'll do.
With
Calvert, that's good.
I'd like to just recommend, as far as the membership of the finance committee, that we basically just replace it with the same directors for the same district on all of these committees. You guys have any problem with that?
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but no, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I mean, like
Rebecca, do you want
Director Underhill.
to the list real quick of what that means?
Yeah. And I'd like to have you guys be on the finance committee. I mean, that'd be a good way to get your feet wet on that board. So there's no chair. Okay, well, we got to go with the seniority, so then Jeff will be the chair. Okay, and then we have an alternate in the engineering committee. Does it,
External relations,
pardon me?
external relations. Oh, sorry, you're right.
Engineer.
Oh,
Me too.
well, engineering, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, would you like to be the alternate on that?
Okay, let me ask, is there any choice? I don't know, Jack, look,
Well, I'm
we're
just asking.
areas of expertise and I have some expertise in external relations, but so is Jack. Like you probably have more than me, so look, I'll do whatever this board at this point thinks is the right thing to do. So whatever you think, Jeff.
Well, I'd like to have you on the, as an alternate on the engineering committee.
Okay.
And then we'll have Jack on the alternate on the external relations. Don't get too excited about that. We haven't met yet. But I'm sure we will one of these days. So is that, then what else do we have? Oh, the T-stand. Does anybody want to be the alternate for that? How often are they meeting?
Monthly, but it gets canceled often too. Kelly or Andrew.
Didn't Cindy
She was,
just in there?
Cindy she had been on it, I think in part because she was active in the T-Stan RW when she was at MSD. I think for, just geographically, it makes sense for District 3 that encompasses the Stanislaus portion of our county. It doesn't have to be that, District 3 director, but that's the part of the county that the T-Stan is focused on.
Well, it should be somebody that's on the Stanislaus.
That's what I mean, on
Yeah.
the Stanislaus.
Would you like to take that one as well?
yes, so.
All these promotions.
So that one is a JPA, so that requires a vote.
Okay, all right. Can we get a nomination?
I'll nominate or motion that Jeff Robertson represent T-Scan.
Second that.
Okay. All right, any public comment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, does that take care of all that stuff?
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, 6C. Discussion regarding our new summer work program. Stacy?
To our community. Trades, all here for this room. The intent of this program, is a 6-week program, began this Monday, June 9th, goes through July 18th. And the intent was for our local students to gain hands-on experience in waste and water and wastewater fields, while also being honored the impact that Dylan had on our district. We received a total of 28 applications from various high schools in Calvert County. We did interview all of them. It was a very difficult decision. At the end of the day, all the interview panel did not want to be on the interview panel anymore, so they did not have to choose. But we did make the difficult decision. We did hire 4 wonderful students. Introduce them. I know. So, it's me right now, that's Cameron. Colors. And she is working with us in the office. They were to work with customer service. We work with our resources next week on the project. So we can listen to it. Well. And if that's one, we were now on the school. And he is also in the office. He's strong desire of engineering. So he's going to work in foster babies. So we can go back and
Right.
Michelle was very interested in the operations of our district. So we allow people this part of the cow and genuinely wonderful. All of us can talk and this is well. The tree.
That's cool.
And Michelle is obviously pretty colors high. She could be. Obviously, we also interested in our operation. We have students and members.
Great.
Well, welcome all of you. This is awesome. Good to be the first, and hopefully you're not the last. It should be something nice to continue each year. Congratulations and welcome.
Do we pay them? You did? Good.
Come back later and earn a real patient.
Lisa, are they all graduated seniors or? Michelle?
So I have to ask, this is about the sewage works. Did they choose that or did we choose that for them?
They chose the program that they were.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and just to tie it to Dylan a little bit more, say a little bit more about that, because Dylan was, he started at CCWD right out of high school. Or even, was there a summer while in high school, through a program that was similar to this that had since been discontinued and, had a phenomenal career here, obviously, and left a lasting impact on all of us. And so that was part of the reason why we wanted to bring it back. It's also just a good idea and we wanted to support it, but, we also want to make sure that as a district, we continue to, recognize them. This was a good way to do it. So thank you, Stacy, Damon, and everybody that worked on Kelly G. I know had a big hand in this too. So thank you to all you guys that made this happen.
To be clear, so what you're saying is they worked really hard. One of them might be up for an employment opportunity eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few that started, very young and had really successful careers here. Some that still are in that position, but have had really successful careers here and done well for themselves and done well for their community.
Well, thank you and good luck.
Yeah, I actually think it's really important. I mean, I really appreciate our efforts to get in the schools and to explain the opportunities, for some local folks to go out, and learn about the education that they need at an early date to come back and work here full time. I think we're showing people that there are quality, good jobs here, and it's a great program. So hopefully that's what you all will. If you find you have an interest, you can go out and get all the certifications and do it, before you're 30, come back. So, anyway, welcome.
Yeah, Stacy and Kelly G and Kate have really done a good job of, I think, increasing our visibility in the local schools through those programs. So yeah, it's been.
All right, dude. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to 6D, discussion regarding licensing the North Fork power project rights. Anderson.
20 years.
You guys can tell me what a great job I'm doing anytime. I'm doing this.
President, you're doing a great job.
You've been doing a great job, Jack.
And we had,
This agenda.
You're too needy.
Presentation. Good afternoon, members of the board. For the new members of the board, we need to reach out. Hydrogeology and trade. I'm the relatively new water resources manager for CCWD here. And I'm happy to present on this maybe lesser known component of projects that may not as flashy or brand and sexy as the infrastructure itself, but very important to the operation. The water rights that allow the project. Okay, so the water rights we're talking about here have a couple of different things. Some call them power rights, but in reality, the State Water Resources Control Board considers these effectively non-consumptive water rights. And non-consumptive effectively means that water rights such as power rights that are used to generate hydroelectric power is water that is returned to the stream. That is, it remains in the system so that folks downstream can eventually put it to effective streams. This is different in comparison to consumptive rights, which are the rights that are diverted from the stream or storage and used for consumptive uses such as drinking water or irrigation. Thank you. There is a process to obtain these rights that is effectively the same process that you would go through for the consumptive components of this. The process is a kind of a multi-step effort, and there it can take a duration of years to get this through. So it all starts with an application, and during that application period, when that application is filed, that effectively becomes the priority date of the right. And that is kind of staking your claim, so to say, for that right. The application process also includes a pretty robust technical and environmental component review. So for example, the North Fork project EIR in total is something on the order of 2,000 plus pages across 3-4 different documents that have different volumes. And it took over a year or nearly a year to get to a supplemental draft environmental impact report for the project in which these rights are based. So it's no insignificant amount of effort just to get the application into the State Water Resources Control Board. So the simultaneously, as you're working through all of the technical components and environmental components, the notice is put out to the public by the State Water Resources Control Board for comment and protest. And it's advised that there's different tactics that you can take in terms of doing the environmental work and reacting to the protest, but it's been advised to us at least that taking those on simultaneously is beneficial so that you can be nimble in the way that you conduct your environmental reviews while reacting to protests, because the protests might inform how you approach the environmental reviews. What's kind of a chicken and egg type of situation. Once you get through the application process, the State Water Board will issue a permit. This permit includes the water sources, which is pretty fundamental. The points of diversion, the areas that are legally allowed to take water from, and then the purpose of use. In this case, the purpose of use is to generate power through, on this particular permit, we expect some better powerhouse and Forgo powerhouse. The permit also includes kind of on the back end a bunch of provisions, and the key pieces here in the provisions are the maximum rate of diversion and you're allowed to legally allowed to take, but then also the total amount of storage that's permitted under these particular permits. And then another key piece, and really what we're kind of talking about leading into today, is the permit also includes a date in which the completion of this a lot of jargon, but the completion of the maximum beneficial use of the water has to be applied, which in maybe another way of saying that is the project has been constructed and all of the water that has been permitted for that project is now being used to its maximum beneficial use. So hard to see on this particular permit, but and this is one of our power right permits for the North Fork project. The completion date for this particular water right is 19. The project wasn't completed until 19. So that's the process to obtain a permit for these power rights, which thankfully all of our predecessors before us went through that effort and got these power rights so the project constructed. So looking at the project a bit more specifically on this very crude stick figure type graphic, after I was looking at Kelly's presentation, this is pretty benign, but it's informative. So what we have here is the red boundaries are the actual FERC license boundaries. So the big red blob on the upper right, that's New Spice. And it's hard to see the North Fork diversion dam, which is up by the Utica Union reservoirs. And then there's the Portal Tunnel, and where all those numbers, which are the application numbers for the permits down in kind of the middle area, that's where McKay's is. And the diversion to the, for the tunnel. Well, I'll get to it in a minute, but as the owner and FERC licensee of the North Fork project, CCWD is responsible to obtain water and maintain these water rights. And we have done that. Currently in the maintenance phase. So CCWD holds 5 water right permits, power right permits for the project. They come from 3 different sources. So the main blue main stem, that's the North Fork Stanislaus. Up by New Spicer, that kind of the turquoise color, that's Highland Creek. And then the purplish color is Beaver Creek. So those are the 3 sources that these permits are allowed to divert from. And then we also have 3 different storage pools in which we can divert that water to. And that is the North Fork Diversion Dam, New Spicer Meadow Reservoir, and then Caseburg Dam. Oh, well, I guess Beaver Creek should be with that. But Beaver Creek Diversion Dam. At any rate, to add another layer to the onion here is some of the permits that we have, some of the power right permits that we have multiple points of storage and have multiple points of storage. So this particular permit that I have circled here includes diversions and/or storage at all 3 sources and nearly all 4 storage facilities. So that's yeah, let's keep going down this road. So continuing to look at specifics of our project and getting to this concept of an extension of time. The power rights were acquired in 1949 and 1959. The original permits at the time of the application, as I mentioned, had the completion of the project or completion of the beneficial use of those permits in 1985. In 1985, CCWD petitioned the state water board to extend that time, and they extended it just a handful of years to 1992. So the permits, the time extension of the permits effectively has been terminated at 1992. That's what the years of it is, extend that time to the present, which I'm getting to. But some general kind of information related to the project and its permits. The bundle of the power rights, all 5 of them collectively, contain the rights or the conditions of total face value, which is kind of the total permitted legal amount of water that can be used or stored, of 1.7 million. The total storage is 244,000 acre feet. And then the total diversions are upwards of 2,000, roughly 2,000 CFS. But as we'll get into a little bit here, those are strictly paper. So, but we'll hit that. So that's the project. I'm going to skip this one real quick because but getting into the petitions, the effort we're working on now. Because the original permits were set to be completed in 1985, they got extended in 1992. Time has elapsed since 1992. The construction of the project effectively ended in 1989. I don't have the timing very well dialed. We'll be talking about it a little bit today. But that period between 1989 and 1992 happened to be a pretty severe drought. So the project wasn't actually maximizing the beneficial use of the water flowing through it because there wasn't much water. So the argument there is that the project hasn't been maximally beneficial use. So we are asking the state water board here with petitioning the state water board to extend the time for these period leading permits to at least cover the replace. So the ask is to extend the time to 2032. This would give us time to have a period record that shows that we have maximized the beneficial use of the water that's moving through the project.
Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm just wondering if it's true that the paperwork should have been submitted when at some point in time prior to now. Why have we waited until just now to submit it?
Well, I can't say you can't predict the future when you say the the past. But
Since Andrew hasn't been here for much of that time since 1992, maybe I'll take a stab at this one. It's not that uncommon in the water industry for time to go by in terms of proving out water rights. So there's in particular, the period of time up until between project operations in late 89 or early 90 and 1992, we were in a drought. And so you don't want to use the drought time as your period of time to prove out maximum beneficial use. And then I think what the district learned over time is there's so much variability in the watershed that we wanted to make sure that we had an accurate accounting of the maximum beneficial use of that water. And I think having the historical record that we do now, we feel comfortable that we have that, and we would like to get this done before the end of the original license term. So we're late as far as the expiration date of the original permit, but it's not uncommon for the water board to approve things like this.
So we haven't placed ourselves in jeopardy by dragging our feet. Finally.
not in terms of date. It's
Okay.
as Michael said.
Quick question also. Assuming, we've got these reservations on the power and water. If they don't give us what we deserve, who else could use that water coming down the river? I mean, it's not consumed. So why would there be a problem?
Well, and we'll get to that. I don't think there should be a problem with getting this time extension or license.
Okay, I'll wait.
So we're going ahead and we're going to get this time extension. And the big item to mention to you all is that the public process begins. So the state water board petition and notice our petition or our application to extend the rights. And that will happen on Friday, opening up the third comment period for public interest protest. All the while, we will be, CCWD will be beginning the EIR process, which luckily, because of the substantial amount of environmental work that's occurred in the project, it's looking like we will only have to do an addendum to the EIR, which we will do in-house. And then we basically state that after the EIR. All the while, we will have to respond to any comment and protests that come in for during this public comment period. And maybe to your question, it's been advised to us that because it's just an extension and it doesn't affect materially affect the project and or consumption of the water is still moving through the system and nothing's moved. It's a fairly narrow kind of window to and because in a likewise, since we aren't changing it to the project, there is a very narrow necessary environmental. That's what a budget is. And addendum, which is a technical. We don't permit process.
So there's no obvious protest.
No obvious.
Let me ask a question if I have this correctly. So it's been 33 years since we really should have applied for an extension of the permit. And are we going to have to redo this again at the expiry of the FERC license in another 7 years? And if that's the case, since it's not being noticed, might it have been better just to go 7 more years if it's gone 33?
Well, I think the rationale doing the time extension now lines up with our effort to relicense the FERC license.
Right.
So we can kind of embed those. But what will happen after that 7 period of 2032 comes around is then we take the permits of license. And that's the next step in the water board process. They know this. But so once, and this is the slide here.
Or between now and then. We don't have to wait.
We don't have to wait, but if we don't license, say 2032 comes around, and we haven't requested to license the permit, then yes, we would have to go through the process to rescind.
Right, but our intent here is we've done the work. We intend to license it, well in advance of 2032, and then we won't have to go through this again.
Right, and so
That answers my question.
So then the license itself, when the permits are licensed, that's kind of the state water board's final confirmation of condition. And at that point, the license remains in effect as long as those conditions are being met. The project is maintained. But a permit, as Michael mentions, we can request the licensing. But the catch is that we want to have a substantial or adequate period of record so you can capture the maximum beneficial use of that water project, because that value, that quantity, is what will be the license kind of final term. So those initial numbers that I had showed, the 244,000 acre feet of storage, that was a permitted kind of paper value. But when you go to license, it's the actual measured value at some duration. So as reference, this comes from the most recent project use report that was prepared back in January. And to sum it up, the total maximum storage use comes out to be around 157,000 acre feet. So a new Spicer, or excuse me, for kind of our largest water rate permit of that maximum storage use was 77,000 acre feet, and that occurred in 1993. So right after that drop here was a huge that really maximized that for the project. So if we were to go to license today, these values, the storage rights license. But it's need to caveat this by saying that this doesn't hinder or cause issues with the operation of the project, because the project is already operated at this maximum, most heavily flowing that the project is. So barring anything other than a really hard storm event, there's just a substantial amount beyond anything that we've ever seen historically. But these values maintain operation for the project, in which you could also see here that the permitted storage, that 22,000, or the 200,000, right? Is even more than the total storage capacity of storage facilities. So clearly, simply taken. Actually.
So, and just to, we're not asking necessarily for direction from the board. We're already prepared to, that we've been working with the water board and they're prepared to issue the notice later this week that would trigger open the public comment period. And we'll work through the process at that point. And, you know, hopefully, as we mentioned in the staff report, respond to comments and handle environmental review, mostly internally. We expect to be able to handle that depending on, you know, what twists or turns that get thrown at us during this process. There'll be some time before we get to the end of the to get the approval from the water board, but then at that point we'll start the process of licensing the rights.
Sorry, Michael, you've had some preliminary discussions with the water board, so you have a sense about all of this.
Well, they can't come out and say, yeah, we're going to approve it if you do it this way necessarily, but we have worked with them on a draft of the notice and yeah, they're ready to work with us on this.
But there is some danger in public comment that we don't know. We just don't know about that and expecting that to be known.
Yeah, I think in this case, you know, the hope is, we have, anytime you do anything with water rights in California, it'll attract attention, especially when you look at the face value of these water rights. We're hoping that people will understand, downstream users will understand that these are non-consumptive rights and it's essentially continuing operation for a project the way it has historically operated. So there shouldn't be any downstream impact for anyone to protest. That doesn't mean they might disagree with that and still have comments on us for us, but we'll evaluate that as they come in.
Will it also kind of give us a heads up on comments that we'll be getting during the last week?
Different issues. It's possible. Yeah, we might get if there are interested parties that raise issues that have to do with the flow regime or the operation of the project. They might get raised at this point as well. But as far as the water rights themselves, as I think Andrew mentioned earlier, FERC tells the licensee to make sure you have your water rights in order, and that's about FERC's involvement in water rights.
Andrew, this is not related to the power consumption that we're using power water rights, but do we have an accounting of what our water rights, consumptive water rights are in this town? And will you give those to me later and how many we use? Just a simple math problem.
Yeah.
And we can pick that up later. That's outside the
I
scope.
will tell you, we did file our extension time on subject rights.
Yeah.
So we have that in the works. And then after the plan of attack here is that we get these power rights there because they, as you mentioned, there's a bit more of a narrow, it's not more easily to derail. There isn't going to be a lot of conflict or protest. So we get these through and then we move to the consumptive rights, which we've already filed for petition with time extension of those. And then we can start to move forward.
Are we current with our license for consumptive rights on other rivers that we have water rights on, Calaveras and Milk?
Question.
With the permits, yeah, and but yeah, that's the kind of the sequence here. Our consumptive rights, our consumptive usage on the stand is relatively small in the grand scheme of the Stanislaus, especially considering the fourth largest reservoir in California that's right downstream of us. But consumptive rights are always much more controversial because it's water that's not available to folks downstream.
So maybe,
Well, and I would have to, like on the mode, our rates there are 394. So those don't have a
Different process.
different project.
if when we get a chance, as I said, not related to this, but I'd like to see an accounting of what we actually own.
Sure.
All right, anything else?
Thanks for hearing. All right.
Anything else from the board?
We'll move forward with the notice and then we'll certainly keep the board posted as if anything. Well, periodically as we go through this, but if anything changes or. It's
Right.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, we'll move on to reports, monthly operations report.
The monthly operations gives me an opportunity to provide you with this visual breakdown of some of the highlights of work that has occurred out in the field over the last month or so. The soft report is a little bit thicker because we did not discuss April, and there's some high points that we'd like to cover. Okay. So jumping right in. Just to orient you all. So the ops department is in blue there. So 9 different departments, 50 employees. We have electrical, mechanical, construction, water, wastewater treatment, distribution, purchasing, facilities maintenance. So we're covering a lot of ground in this department. For those of you who don't know, you're becoming, I think, quickly aware of the depth and scale of CCWD is responsible for in Calaveras County. So you can see groundwater, 3 watersheds, customer service, elevation changes. Incidentally, the elevation change is one of the key discussion points and resource report to talk about the difficulty for implementing things in Calaveras County. Wastewater facilities. So a lot of the folks, how many miles of force main do you have is equates to how much do you bench in the collection system world. So we have a lot of force main, a lot of sewer main, 45 lift stations. You talk to somebody in the urban environment and they just look at you blankly because that just is totally foreign.
That's like your deadlift.
Yeah, that could be deadlifts. Exactly right.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. Yeah. And then 13 treatment and disposal systems. That's huge. It's a lot. And then water facilities, right? 27 tenants. We talk about fire hydrants. We'll have an update to the engineering committee from operations relative to fire hydrants next month. But we have 2,200 through our 6 water systems. So a lot going on. So we'll jump in and please stop me if you have a question or if you want to talk about an item. Forgot about these, right? 9 dams, EAPs associated with dams, reclamation facilities, vehicles. Our purchasing agent is responsible for the fleet. So he works closely with our chief mechanic to schedule work and to prioritize work effort. Standby generators, they have to operate when the power goes out. And the mechanics do a great job of making sure that they're operational. Okay, so here we go. If you talk to a collections crew member, they tell you that one of our sewer pumps was ragged up. This is what it looks like. So folks are flushing items down the drain and they basically wrap themselves around the cutting and colors of our sewer pumps. And they stop that pump's ability to churn and chew up debris. And so that's the inlet port of a sewer pump that you see the image on the left with rags floating at the bottom. The image on the right is our newest recruit to the collections crew, Eli Bella, with a pair of channel locks, pulling debris out of this pump at probably 1 o'clock in the morning. So,
This is is this going to be a high school student's job this summer?
Pretty soon, I think he has a call with him on the intern. But, in all seriousness, this is why we have to routinely send out informational packets to our customers to remind them what not to flush. Because this stuff does have a direct impact and can result in sewer spills. So the SSMP that we approved earlier, the sanitary sewer management plan, kind of is the Bible associated with all of the work that the collections crew does relative to the sewer system. Real quick, this is a sewer well. We don't have to dwell on it too much, but I do want to highlight the orange in the image on the right. I don't know how the orange got flushed down the toilet, but it made it down the toilet. So it's pretty, folks never cease to amaze us. So here's a demo of a gap backer truck. So And the image on the left shows the tank and its boom kind of out over the cab of the truck. And the image on the right, one of the key considerations when you're looking at new equipment is how much can it bench. And so this is pickup tubes on the end of that boom down into one of our deepest flood wells to see if it can suck debris from the very bottom, because it's not really going to be much use to us. It doesn't have the suction to get debris out of the bottom. So that's what they're looking at there. And here are the guys providing all manner of insight, conjecture over what's going on. Here's some more pictures.
Some big thinkers on that.
What's that?
Some big thinkers right there.
Yes, there's a lot going on right there. And that is incidentally the lower cross-country lift station. So that takes all the sewage from Poker Flats, Connor Estates, Peninsula Estates, all the way down to Burness Ferry, deposits it in the lower cross-country. And then from there, we pump it cross-country into a sewer force main up to upper cross-country before ultimately shooting it over to our Copper Cove wastewater treatment plant. So this is a key lift station for the community of Copper Cove.
Damon, let me ask you a question. This is, the caption says a gap back demo. This was a piece of equipment that we were considering to buy, and
Yeah, every once in a while, we'll get a demo of a vehicle that's purported to be the latest and greatest. So we call them Vacmons. Vacmon is the main brand, they're vacuum trucks. So they have a high pressure hose and high pressure wand apparatus usually on the truck. And then they have the ability to suck or pull debris into that tank. And so they're kind of a mixed use. We use them to fix water leaks, and we use them to suck out wastewater lift stations, all manner of things. But this brand is a gap backs. So it can usually sit, I think, on most makes of truck, International, Peterbilt, and what have you. Yeah, pretty much. And there's gap backs, there's Vactor, there's Vacon, there's a whole host of manufacturers. This was a gap backs, which we have, incidentally, we have Vacons on Ebbets Pass and in Paparopolis, and we have a gap backs in La Quintana, Jenny Lind area.
Is that a plastic see-through tube?
No, I wish it was. That would be really interesting. It's did. Oh, they did. Or is that it right there?
Yeah, that does appear to be plastic and.
Yeah, normally they're stainless.
Yeah, and I've never seen that. That may be an advantage to see what's coming through at any.
So that was part of the show. We thought we didn't see how. Gotcha.
I think it would be interesting for you to tell our new board members what this particular piece of equipment costs.
So the last one we purchased, I think, was in the order of $650,000. I think they're closer to the order of 750, 780, depending on which kind of additive item you get.
If they have plastic tubing, probably 800,000.
Could be, yeah. It's got to be pretty strong plastic.
And this isn't even, it's not an electric powered one either, is it?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Back to the deep thing.
Yeah, yes, the deep thinkers. Now we're to our utility crew. So this is replacing service laterals. There's some images of got. So image on the right, kind of hard to see in the ray of sunlight, but there's a rolled up poly tubing, which is the service lines. The guys cut the trench up the hill to the water main, run it down. Oftentimes they can, in the image on the left, you can see kind of two holes, one on the main, one near the meter. So they can actually sometimes, not all the time, grab the old service and put it in. A lot of the work that our utility crew is doing is they're basically cutting open trench. And they'll do like 10 services at a time, install the new service, and they'll cut them all over to the new service all in the day. So there'll be a one-day shutdown for all those residents. And then they get cut over to the service. The image on the left is compaction tests. So we call for compaction on all of these laterals, these trenches, and then the county comes out and sees that compaction test and blesses it, and then we go ahead and pay. So the utility crew hard work. Here's a construction crew. We have approximately 24 2-inch water mains in the cul-de-sacs and Metro Calaveras. They're all made of blue bell. Blue bell is really thin, take a picture of a wall. They blow up all the time. So our crews have been earnestly replacing those. And these are some images of cutting the trench. running the line. Image on the right, capping the old line, make sure that no debris gets in there while the grading. And this is two images, one overlaid on the other, but you can kind of see how good a job our folks do in putting in cutback and then also cleaning up the water. Hats off to those guys. A lot of fire hydrant work happened the past couple of months. Kind of hard to see from the TV, but in the image on the left, you can see this is a pretty aged connection set and shoe for this fire hydrant, and then the sanitary apron is kind of rough. So from left to right, that's the kind of the before and after for a hydrant replacement. And then here's another one, a hydrant replacement on Newton Road. Obviously, this hydrant on the left, this is like while they're working to dismantle and repair, it has you can see the ring on one of the outlet connections on the hydrant on the left, and that's an out service. So we're putting hydrants back into service as much as we can throughout all of our service areas. Here's a valve replacement, so you can see how much small sections of pipe have to be cut out. In the image on the left, that's old AC pipe that'll get wrapped and put in a dumpster. And the image on the right is the new valve on the cedar. All right, here's another hydrant replacement. This sanitary aprons look really nice. That looks great. That's off to the guys. Here's some mechanics. So we have biosolids basins that we haul down to Sassoon to dump. So we at 4 of our wastewater facilities, we press all the biosolids, get all the liquid out, and recycle and treat the liquid. And we send the solids down to a landfill. We're actually talking with the county about resuming. Some years ago, I'm sure all of you are aware, we used to be able to dispose of biosolids to the negotiation. Driving down to Sassoon and cutting it's not cheap. And so what happens to these bins is that they erode over time. There's a lot of mineral content and gases in that debris that erodes the metal. So our mechanics plated the bottom and then welded it up and coated it, bring some acid like goodness. Yeah.
Hey, Don, talk about trucking solids. When at some point we won't have to truck our solids from West Point. We'll be using them on site. Is there a beneficial use to get the rest of our solids up there? I mean, as opposed to Sassoon, it obviously, and I don't even know, Rock Creek it might even be less expensive and provide some sort of an end product that may be beneficial to us. Is that?
That's absolutely right. It's a great question. So we've estimated that if there's potential for a biomass facility to be constructed next to the West Point wastewater treatment plant. And it will take woody biomass, siphon up hydrogen, make electricity, potentially provide electricity to our waste treatment facility. And we have the opportunity to provide treated wastewater effluent to cool their process. So this synergistic relationship between energy creation and water and wastewater treatment is going to happen here in Calaveras County. One opportunity we do have is to take all of our biosolids in our facilities, truck them up to this point, and sprinkle them on top of the wood chips. It's almost like a magic ship, right? And that would equate to less than 1% of the fuel that project could use for energy development. So a couple of things to consider: air resources board, Calaveras County, emissions. What does that look like if you're going to sequester hydrogen off of biosolids? So that's a challenge we'll have to work through and better understand. But there's also another potential benefit, which is constituents of concern inactivation, PFAS, PFOAs. Can you put a potentially existing biosolids through human waste? People are ingesting these. So can we sequester those forever chemicals in this process and take them basically out of the commission? So there are a couple studies. The Bioenergy Association of California is investigating that. There's a green energy hydrogen group that's also looking into that, but Lawrence Livermore Lab is actually looking at it. So there's a lot of options here in the future for biosolids for system. Sure.
So we go to the county, is there is it just a function of how much dollars it costs us to put in there? Or is there anything bad in there that we can put in the landfill?
Well, so the solids have to be tested, and then there is a threshold So there's Class A biosolids and Class B biosolids. Class A have been pasteurized, and those are the ones that can be used for fertilizer and what have you. Class B have not. So the content of potentially negative constituents is just like regular soil. So it's not so much of a health concern, but there are metals and other minerals that have to be analyzed. And then if they are above the threshold, you can't dispose of those solids, plastic solids. So we might apply that. What's that?
Hasn't there a problem been keeping it dry now?
Well, that was one of the topics in the past. There were a whole host of different issues. And so we haven't been able to kind of dive into the details as of yet. But I'm curious to understand what the concern would be. Because it's great cover for Suisun. I mean,
Sure.
they're bringing it in.
I mean, I know the county's searching hard and low for dollars for irrigated waste management, so seems like a good time.
Right, exactly.
The Director of Public Works years and years ago was Rob Houghton. And he was a very strong advocate for using that material. He has a consulting company. It's kind of, have you ever heard of his name? It might be worthwhile
Yeah.
reaching out to him. It's called Veras, Veras Enterprises, Veras Consulting. Houghton, Bob.
Okay.
Great guy.
Got it. Some more illustrations of the mechanics at work. So there's a roof hatch at the Jalen water plant. So periodically our folks have to get up on the roof. Mechanics built a safety rail for the roof hatch. And then so they fabbed it up and then brought it up there and bolted it to the roof. Looks great. That's up to the guys. Here's
That's submitted to JPIA.
that's a great question. We have a few into JPI, but this would be a great, this is kind of unique. So
We just settled a huge lawsuit with a Sacramento area water facility that had hired an outside company to come on the roof to work on something. I think it was even security, was something not even associated with, but they didn't have the proper transfer of liability papers signed by this would transfer any responsibility, anything that happened to him or anything that he damaged, it would, it's a simple form to sign, the date that you need to present his liability. And we did, this particular water district did not do that. He fell through the skylight and it impaired, impairment for the rest of his life. It was one of the most expensive lawsuits that we just got finished settling. And this is the subject. I'll bet you this would get some good attention at that JPIA meeting on Monday. And that's coming up in the fall.
okay, I'll submit this next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the forms saved on my desk.
You got all the pictures right here and
Yeah.
great
And the
explanation.
narrative, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think in those things, say you're willing to share your template, your plans, your design.
Yeah.
To anyone else who wants to use it. I mean, we're gonna have copyright on it. And
Yeah. That's
it would
great.
be a good team players.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Moving on to the electrician. So this is some instrumentation work that took place at the B tank site in Copperopolis. This was somewhat associated to our project there where we're adding a clear well and rehabbing tanks. Total process control change. Our folks wrote all the programmable logic code for the process, and then they wired it and implemented the program. So it was like an all-day, all-night work effort, and they did a fabulous job. You can see that in the image on the right, they were ready for business. And then you see Craig on the left working. So super creative electrical team. This is kind of hard to understand kind of with the images, but the spray field control system for a wastewater treatment plant in Vallejo, it's experienced a little bit of vandalism. There's some bullet holes in some of the piping that had control wire in there. And our electricians went out there and found some shorts and they're cleaning the whole system up. And because our operators need to be able to transfer spray irrigation for the wastewater facility so they don't overrun the ground and super saturate the ground. So this is really helpful too. Ron and his team at Vallecito. This was a super fun one, 8-inch water main break by the U.S. Forest Service opposite off Highway 4. You know, when you know it's a main break, your hope is that it's, you know, a shear break, AC pipe that goes like this, and you can kind of bring it back together to a full circle current on it. That's what we need. This was happened to be a spiral break on this old, I'm not even sure what that is. It's old PVC pipe. Yeah. And it spiraled, drove through 2 sticks and was beyond 20 feet. So there you go. There's the culprit there in the image on the left, and then the backfill. So you go from this sloppy, muddy, crazy mess, and then right water everywhere, because you have to keep this under pressure while you're exposing taking the stuff debris into your system. So our folks are really adept at disinfection, ensuring the safety of the rest of the system, and then so we go from a sloppy, muddy mess to a clean, nice, clean side. That's all.
How long does it take you to do a repair like that?
This was about a 10-hour day. So if you're in the middle of the night or if you're in a snowstorm, you add a couple hours to it. And then, so jumping into the Evans Pass crew, so these are service line breaks, each on the right, water one next to a meter, and then the image on it. Here we go, boom, a complete repair of the service line of the team, and the image on the right backfill next to the 2-meter boxes. This is one of our pressure reducing valves up in Evans Pass, so this is kind of assessing the condition of this. It's kind of hard to see some of that metal is delaminated on that pressure control valve, so this is going to get replaced in the future. But in short term, just replace the service line, mark the lid so we understand what it is. Newer staff, they might show up and not know and not know what it does. And so every opportunity we get, we have a way for something. Inform everybody. And so here's the, you know, you have some downtime, you can clean and organize your warehouse. We have some talented carpenters up on the Evans Pass crew. Matt Jarman can build some shelves like no other. So you go from a disorganized library with tools and equipment everywhere to clean it out, build some shelves, organize it, put it all away, and then get back to the tasks. So hats off to those guys. That's great. Here's a really interesting one. Arnold wastewater treatment plant. You need air in the process. This is a 4-inch steel air line. So in the image on the left, the guys are using one of those vector traps or gap backs to suck the giant hole out. And then you can kind of see the top of that valve apparatus, so you can have a wall spraying air, spraying water. And the image on the left, you go over to the right, and that's what they exposed, this rusted out air line. So we are developing a plan for replacement and on a wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation project, but in the meantime, plan on helping with the back in business. Here's mutual assistance for UWPA. They had a penstock drain valve fail on them, and all this in a panic. This actually caused quite a disruption to the whole community down there in terms of volume of water and pressure. And so we brought her back on over and exposed this apparatus that you see in the image on the right for the unit to do, so then they can take it out of service to cut it out of the system.
This is the one they just wrote a thank you note for, right?
Yeah.
On the phone with Joel, can't remember what the deal was, but he was told that all our guys are in the parking lot.
Yeah.
At that.
At
moment.
that action time.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Some of those guys were in here today.
Damon, if you go back to that picture that shows the horizontal hole in that air line, and there's some significant corrosion on that metal pipe.
Right.
Is there a possibility of putting some sacrificial metals in place on these pipes when you put them in the ground so that this cathode you replace the cathode instead of the pipe?
It's a great question, and that does happen on our project if we're using metals. Yeah, and moving forward, if we're going to drop steel here from the ground, we're going to actually absolutely protect.
Okay.
Yep.
Do new market materials make a big, I mean, like epoxy coated pipes, things like that? Is that gonna, and you're replacing that entire line, I think?
Yeah, that line will be replaced. I'm not sure what we specify for the airline nowadays, but it could be an epoxy coated like oak cow type, conduit almost. Like there.
It's like it's
I'm not completely sure. A lot of times Schedule 80 does the job just great.
Yeah.
And it has, as you know, no glue, it's not going to corrode, so, I would anticipate it's going to be some sort of Schedule 80 type plastic that's, incidentally, this chunk of whatever it is on the right, was riveted steel and then, welded and then pushed down and welded into another piece of steel. Circa, I want to say there was 8 automotive valves from the late 1800s. So, quite the deal. I want to illustrate kind of.
Who put
our
it in the
guys.
ground?
Miners. That's all I'm still.
Yeah.
So a bunch of miners got
Wow.
together. No, I'm sure there's,
So that's just something they found while they're excavating.
yeah, because they knew there was, obviously they had a penstock drain valve,
Mhm.
but there are actually 2 penstock drain valves plumbed together in series. And then the other one, there was absolutely no way to get to the operating, no way to get consistent. So our guys kept building, digging this hole with our machine and getting deeper and deeper. And then there was a concern of, cave-in, so you put shoring in and nobody's getting it. We're just excavating. And then we find 2 and they were like, oh my gosh, there's 2. So it's kind of like that is. This one's up in West Point. This is a testament to our folks, and a lot of our guys have this ability. They can listen to a water leak and really pretty much pinpoint it in the asphalt. And then when they jackhammer it open, boom. So the image on the left, you see the 2 full circle repair clamps. And so 2x2 hole, water could have been going everywhere, but they ran exposed the line in a 2x2 hole and used the whacker to, in fact, the cut back.
They don't use their rods to find these.
Sometimes there depends on which crew you're going to talk to that day. You might get some culturally different answers depending on which crew you're going to use some rod, or are they going to be copper, or are they going to be wood, or
Twigs.
I swear
Yeah.
by that.
here's an interesting one. You got a clean pump screen at the wastewater lift station in West, and you definitely have to clean that. So you get some issues. So the image on the left here, that kind of that whitish stuff on the screen before it gets cleaned up, that's grease. That just, gets cold and congeals on that screen. Resolving a customer issue. So this is somebody who had some issue with, they weren't sure about what their pressure was and they thought we might have an issue. So you go out, take the meter off and you put a pressure gauge on there and you illustrate to them, give them acceptable pressure and then go about your business. Stop construction in West Point, putting up that new building's going up. It's up now. So these are pictures from April. It's beautiful. They did a wonderful job. KW Emerson, hats off to them. We're kind of made whole up there. Here we take a lot of advantage of Vallecito fire crews. So here they are cleaning up areas all throughout the county. These happen to be over in Vallecito. Hats off to them. Here's what tuberculation looks like. So this was a valve cut out of the ground with Jenny Lane. The image on the left is the kind of the valve itself, kind of halfway in the pipe, as you can see, covered with tubercles, tuberculation, little rusty balls, that corrosion. So this is a hydrant rebuild. Just go through the process really quickly. Hopefully I can pretend to animate it. So you're going to take the top off, you're going to pull the whole stem and seat out from the hydrant. There you go, leaning up against the truck. And then you're going to replace all those gaskets in the image on the right in that brass apparatus. And then there you go. Here's some of the kind of the burring on the seats there that were taken off of that stem. And you're going to put new stuff on. Here we go with all the new stuff. You're going to make it look like that, nice and shiny new. You're going to slap it back into a fire hydrant and flush. Put that thing back in service. So this is happening. Here's another one. Look at the tuberculation on the end of that. See,
Tuberculation is primarily from corrosive water or dissimilar metals, or who knows?
so it can be all of the above. So you can actually have kind of a burr or an exposed area on a piece of metal, and the naturally occurring iron manganese bacteria also cause tuberculation. So that's generally what we see in our service areas. It's the naturally occurring minerals are gonna get in there and find out. And then set up shop.
The other one looks like lizard like mussels.
Yeah, don't say that.
We don't
And
charge,
here you go, another seat. This is a different make, but you can see kind of the before and after. And so our folks are able to extend the life of this fire.
we have an opportunity to charge extra for the minerals that we're supplying.
Right, yes, there could be,
Supplements.
yeah, something. It could be, we could do a primer on what minerals are good for what, consumer confidence. But I don't know if we can go over too well.
That,
Still bragging about it.
the
But a lot of manganese.
Yeah.
the picture that you started off with, is that rag getting ragged up in that grinding pump. And that either looks like a pillowcase or a bed sheet. How do you flush something like that down the toilet?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different types of raggy debris. A lot of this, the Swiffers, the wet wipes, they wreak havoc on the collection system. Mops. So we actually have met with, so incidentally, this lift station has been about one large customer. Like large meaning there's a lot of rooms, commercial customer. And so we're gonna have a show and tell with staff about what to flush and what not to flush. Because this is kind
I was
of,
gonna say, most wastewater plants, it's very difficult to see who's the culprit. That's
this one,
amazing.
this makes it easy. Another telltale sign are blue gloves. So we had an issue some years back from one of our lift stations, which just gets full of torn apart blue gloves and all of the debris, and they were kind of that plastic, rubber, plastic just kind of gumming everything up. And we realized there was a housekeeping company that was using this blue glove. And we're going to reach out directly to them and say, hey,
Good forensic work.
yeah, hats off to our guys. They did it.
Yeah, just one other question. You revealed several meetings ago that there was a member of the California Air Resources Board that lives in Valley Springs. Have you made contact with that person?
Yes, yeah, we are working scheduled tour of district facilities with not only that individual from the board, I think about 10 others. And Aqua, if you like. And so the hope is to really kind of paint the picture of the inability to transition over to electric vehicles and still provide a part resources. We're not saying that I couldn't drive an electric vehicle, but the average vehicle could be electric. We're really challenging this notion that a full one-ton service truck that's four-wheel drive has to fix that main brake so people can have water when it's 110 degrees out, can actually do the job. And so we don't want to, I always say it, but tell them you can't give us rubber shovel and ask us to do all of it. And they're starting to see that now. So we presented something similar to what you all just saw, but it was centered around storms and emergency response. What Highway 4 looks like in the middle of a storm, telephone poles and trees like this, and the power lines are in the ground. Or AT&T has a blue truck holding up power lines you can drive under. We say that now you're going to let CAL FIRE drive up there and respond to a safety call. And then they're going to go, oh no, it's a water main break and there's ice on the road. Hey, still get up here. And we're going to charge them the truck first. So they see it about 4 hours. And they really don't want that to happen. They don't.
Well, you could buy a generator to go behind all the trucks.
We've actually, and now there are mobile charging stations. So we're actually going to receive some vendor cut sheets on mobile electric vehicle charging stations that we can buy and trailer both of them.
All right, that concludes the report.
That's the state.
Good job. Thank you.
Hey, general manager report?
Yeah, I'll be brief, but hopefully what the new board members have captured here is, I think you already know if you need a really first-rate, professional, high-quality slide deck, you go to Kelly G. If you need metaphors, you go to David. He's got the best. The bench, how much do you bench? The rubber shovel. He can really help you understand what we're trying to communicate here. So, and then just kind of to build off of one of the items I was going to talk about briefly is the Legal Affairs Committee last week and really acknowledge Kelly G and Damon, not just for their presentations and their metaphors, but just how they've kind of elevated that committee and the presentations that are provided there, bringing in guest speakers, the work that they do on advocacy through mountain counties, and Damon especially on this clean fleets issue with CARB. Is, you know, kind of recognized as a statewide leader in helping water districts communicate to CARB the issues that we're seeing there. And so they've just done a really phenomenal job there, I think. And we got, of course, a detailed update from Mia on our federal advocacy efforts there. A lot of work lately, obviously, on budget development and then processing the loan for infrastructure. So that's taken up a lot of time lately, in addition to Norfolk relicensing work, these water rights, a lot of work on the Norfolk project as well. So that's been the majority of my time lately. I am happy to report out UPUD has issued a notice of intent for a FEMA grant for an intertie, and it's a phase 1, so planning, engineering and planning study to look at an interconnection between our distribution systems, something that the UPUD and CCWD have talked about for many years, since the Darby fire, really. And we've had some really productive discussions with them in Angels Camp, how Angels Camp fits into that as well lately, and that's, I think, a milestone in that effort that we reached that point. So kudos to Jessica and UPUD and to Kevin and Damon, our engineering team, working with them to put that application together. And we're looking forward to supporting that effort. We took a tour last week, so Director Robertson and Director Garamendi might report out on this one as well. But Joel at Utica was instrumental in getting a staff member from Senator Schiff's office and staff members from Senator Padilla's office to visit the area, which is great to get there, for them to take the time out of their day to come up here and spend a day learning about water utilities in Calaveras County, and was greatly appreciated and productive day, both spending time with our new directors and learning that part of our system and those relationships that are really important to us, and with the local agencies and the federal offices. And yeah, it was just a enjoyable day, and I think informative. Let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to mention about the Norfolk project relicensing really quick. We're coming up to the end of that contract that we entered into with HDR in January. We made a lot of progress on that scope of work. We're hoping to conclude that by the end of this month. I'm saying that anxiety is increasing, but they've done a great job, and we're trying to wrap that work effort up so that we can roll that into what will the next scope of work, which will be a much larger scope of work looking down the road with the license application itself. Lastly, I think what has become everybody's favorite day of the year at CCWD is Bring Your Kids to Work Day tomorrow. So the office will be closed. And it's become a really great event to connect staff, not just morale, but connect staff, and especially with this many new employees, get people together to get to know each other better and coordinate and communicate. And so it has a lot of different benefits in addition to being fun. So we're looking forward to that.
So if the director wanted to bring his kids in, would we be welcome? Is this really something you want to keep in house?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So if I hadn't let you know that before, I'll send you the details.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do we have any questions for the general manager? Okay, board reports, information items, future agenda items. Jeff?
Not sure if this is supposed to be done in closed section, but there was one question that went out to Stacy and Michael. It was a follow-up with a recommendation.
why don't we follow up offline about that? Yeah. Okay, chat with it.
Scott?
Yeah, tomorrow, I think I've reported on this also and then given everyone an invitation. Tomorrow night is our roundtable at Black Oak Casino in Tuolumne. And then the following day on Friday morning, we have our Mountain County meeting. Oh, and I did go to attended the CWIF, the California Water Insurance Fund. It's the captive insurance company in Utah that JPA formed 4 or 5 years ago. And that was very informative. It was my first meeting with CWIF. And we meet once a year in Utah, and then a couple other meetings during the in-person meetings in Roseville. But that as an investment, I didn't talk about the investment opportunity of creating an insurance company with a little bit more variation in what kind of investments you can make. Our dividend last year in 2024 was over $7 million. In 2025, it's 21 million. This is helping. We all remember the days when JPA used to show up with big checks or refund checks at the end of the year. We're closer to getting back to that. We're not back there yet, but we're closer to getting back to that. And the reason we're not back there yet is because of rising reinsurance costs. But this is enabling us. So we're real close to hitting our 7% rate of return on our investments. We're 6.94 now, and have been climbing since it began 4 years ago. We're real close. Very successful endeavor. That's all I got.
Yeah, Thomas?
The only thing I have to report is I will also be attending that event for Mountain Counties tomorrow evening. I can't attend the Friday event, but anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, Jack?
Thank you. I attended the Stanislaus tour with Jeff, and it was great. You guys have got a heck of an organization. It's been drinking from the firearms and understanding.
We're drinking from the penstock here. It's drinking from the penstock.
Yeah, I'll attend the Mountain Counties meeting tomorrow night in Toronto. And I apologize to this board, but when I signed up, I didn't have a lot of lead time, and I have a business meeting this month. I was unable to change. So I will not be attending the 25th of June meeting. Apologize for that. I kind of apologize. I also missed the last meeting in July, the 23rd. That's because I'm celebrating my 30th anniversary with my wife, and she's chunks of it. I told the girl I'm getting her out of Calvary County.
I see the reason for the apology for the first one, but the second one, I don't.
No, it's probably apologies. But thank you very much.
Good. I have nothing to report. We will adjourn into, for the next board meeting to be, that an error? I'm looking at.
Something's in error. Either
I think Monday,
it's Monday at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock.
Monday at
This
10
week says
o'clock.
Wednesday the
6 o'clock or
16th.
9 o'clock.
Monday's at 10 o'clock.
our next meeting is Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, God.
Okay, Monday, June 16th at 10 a.m. Okay, we're gonna adjourn into closed session with conference with legal counsel, significant litigation, and then also regarding agency negotiations, general manager, HR, Stacy Lawler, with the employee organization, SEIU 1021. Is there any public comment on closed session? Seeing none, we will adjourn into closed session.